Part 1. The invisible thread between worlds. It all started with a silence so deep, it felt like space itself had paused to listen. I was on the 12th day of a silent retreat in the high Himalayas, where the thin air makes your breath slower and time begins to bend. Sitting cross-legged on stone warmed by the sun, I felt something strange, a pulse, not from my body, but from the space around me. A vibration, as if reality itself were breathing. And in that moment, it struck me not as theory, but as truth that we are not just observers of this universe. We are entangled with it. Quantum entanglement is not just a scientific oddity. It is the sacred bridge between inner and outer. When two particles become entangled, they behave as one system, even when separated by vast distances. Change the state of one, and the other changes instantly. Think about that. There is no communication delay, no observable force in between, just a knowing, a mirrored shift. And now ask yourself, what if your thoughts, your emotions, your intentions are entangled with the field of reality itself? What if every thought you send out is not just a whisper in your own mind, but a ripple in the quantum field? What if reality doesn't just respond to your actions, but to your signal? You see, we've been taught that we are separate from what we observe. We've bought the illusion that consciousness is locked inside our skulls. But quantum physics, and more importantly, direct spiritual experience, tells a different story. It tells us that consciousness is not in the body, it is entangled with all that is.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
The ancient mystics didn't use the term quantum entanglement, but they understood its essence. They taught that your inner state mirrors the cosmos, that thoughts are not private, they are vibrations, that what you bless, blesses you, that what you curse, curses you. And now modern science is catching up with what the sages have always known. Reality is not objective. It is participatory. It is responsive. It is you. So when we say your thoughts create reality, we're not speaking metaphorically. We are speaking mechanically. Emotion is energy in motion. Intention is the steering wheel. Belief is the accelerator or the brake. When you hold a thought with clarity and emotional charge, you entangle it with the field. You give it structure. You invite its mirror into your timeline. This is not wishful thinking. It is quantum architecture. But here is the great paradox. Most of us are creating unconsciously. Our minds are filled with loops of fear, judgment, lack, and doubt. And those thoughts, too, are entangled. Those thoughts, too, shape the field. So the world reflects back to us not what we desire, but what we broadcast. And until we become conscious of our signal, we remain prisoners of our own projection. You might ask, why is this not obvious? Why don't our thoughts manifest instantly if this is true? Because time is a buffer. It gives you space to refine your frequency, to align your inner world before it hardens into matter. Instant manifestation would be chaos if your mind is chaotic. The delay is divine grace. It is not punishment. It is protection. Now let's go deeper. Every thought you think is entangled not only with matter, but with consciousness. There is no such thing as a private thought. We are all embedded in a shared field. When you think a loving thought, it strengthens the collective field of coherence. When you spiral into fear, you feed the grid of distortion. This is why your inner work is not just personal, it is planetary. Imagine this: you are a node in an infinite web. Every breath you take, every emotion you feel, every belief you hold sends ripples through that web. You are never alone. You are never neutral. You are always co-creating. So the question is not if your thoughts create reality. The question is, what reality are you currently creating, moment by moment? The chosen ones, the awakened, the visionaries, they are not gifted. They are simply aware. They have learned to harness the power of entangled thought. They have disciplined their minds not through suppression, but through intention. They know that a clear thought, held in alignment with heart and soul, is the most powerful force in the universe. And they do not waste that power. This is why meditation matters. This is why stillness is sacred. The quieter the mind, the clearer the signal. The deeper the breath, the stronger the frequency. And when your thoughts arise from stillness rather than reaction, they carry the signature of Source. They are not entangled with fear, they are entangled with truth. And truth manifests faster than illusion because it is already aligned with the field. You may feel resistance. That's normal. The ego doesn't want to believe you are this powerful. Because if you are, then there is no one left to blame. No more stories to hide in. No more waiting for the world to change. You are the change. You are the cause. You are the entangler. And that realization can be terrifying until it becomes liberating. So how do we begin to shift? How do we choose thoughts that uplift rather than repeat the past? Start by becoming the observer. Watch your thoughts like clouds passing through the sky. Don't attach. Don't judge. Simply notice. And then ask, is this thought aligned with the reality I want to create? Is this thought rooted in fear or in vision? Is this thought mine or is it inherited, conditioned, programmed? That last question is crucial. Much of what you think is not yours. It is cultural noise, intergenerational trauma, media residue. But the moment you observe it, it begins to lose power. Observation collapses the wave. This is quantum truth. Once something is observed, it is changed. So the act of watching your thoughts is not passive, it is transformational. From observation comes choice, and from choice comes coherence. And when your thoughts, emotions, and actions become coherent, you move into alignment with the field. You become a conscious entangler. You don't just react to life, you shape it. You don't just survive, you broadcast a frequency that reshapes the grid. Now pause and ask yourself something soul deep. If your current reality is a mirror of your entangled thoughts, what is it trying to teach you? What pattern is asking to be released? What belief is ready to be upgraded? What version of you is waiting to be embodied? Because quantum entanglement means the future you, the one who already lives in peace, power, and purpose, is already connected to you now. They are not somewhere else. They are not someday. They are entangled with your now. Every time you think a thought aligned with their frequency, you collapse the distance. You step into the timeline where they exist, and you become them. That is the miracle of this truth. You don't have to become someone else. You only have to remember who you already are at a higher frequency. You don't have to fix yourself. You only have to stop entangling with lies. So the next time you catch a thought of fear, pause, observe, ask, is this mine? Is this true? Is this entangled with who I truly am? And then choose again. Because your thoughts are not just yours. They are the architects of the world. They are the threads of the quantum web. And you, dear soul, are the weaver. Part 2. The mirror responds before you speak. There's a moment when you stop asking whether your thoughts matter and begin asking how deeply they're already shaping everything. That's when the shift begins. Most people wait for reality to change before they change their thoughts. But the awakened ones do the opposite. They change their inner frequency first, and the mirror of life has no choice but to respond. It's not magic, it's mechanics. The quantum field is a mirror that responds before you even speak. Every time you think a thought with emotional intensity, you entangle it with a morphogenic field. You're not just sending it out, you're weaving it into the collective web, into the probability space, into your own trajectory. You're collapsing realities with every mental broadcast, whether you know it or not. So the question is never, does manifestation work? The real question is, what am I manifesting unconsciously all the time? Let that sink in. Every fear you rehearse, every limitation you replay, every belief you hold on to, these are not just mental habits. They are entanglement devices. They hook you into timelines that reflect the same frequency over and over again. We call it bad luck, karma, even fate, but it's not fate. It's feedback. The field doesn't punish, it reflects. It doesn't teach with words, it teaches with mirrors. So how do you shift the reflection? You don't fight the mirror. You don't beg it to change. You change what you're broadcasting. You shift the internal state and allow the external to calibrate. But here's the secret most people miss. You don't do this once. You do it daily. You do it with devotion. You make your mind your temple, not your prison. You become the conscious entangler of your own reality. This is why your morning matters more than you realize. The first thoughts you think upon waking are like the tuning fork for your entire day. Are you aligning with anxiety? Are you replaying past pain? Or are you tuning into the version of you who already trusts, creates, and receives with grace? That version already exists. They are not imaginary. They are entangled with you through choice. The field doesn't recognize intentions that are weak, hesitant, or inconsistent. It responds most powerfully to sustained coherence. That means a thought, emotion, and action that vibrate in harmony. When you think abundance, feel abundance, and act from abundance, you collapse into an abundant timeline. When you think love, feel love, and move as love, you magnetize more of it, not because you're worthy, but because you're resonant. But here's the deeper spiritual engineering behind that. The field doesn't care about your words. It listens to your frequency. You can say, I'm ready to receive 1,000 times, but if your signal says I'm not safe, the field believes your signal. That's why affirmations without embodiment often produce frustration. Your body must believe what your mind declares. Your nervous system must match your vision. Otherwise, the entanglement is weak, and the mirror reflects the older code. Have you ever noticed how the most powerful manifestors aren't always the most spiritual on the surface, but they are fully convinced? They carry no doubt. Their certainty becomes the magnet. That's not arrogance, it's alignment. The field doesn't reward humility or ambition. It rewards clarity. It responds to the signal that is most coherent, not the one that is most desperate. So how do you build this coherence? You begin by removing the static. And what is static? It's the noise of contradiction. It's saying you want love but believing you're not worthy. It's asking for abundance while fearing loss. It's praying for freedom while clinging to control. The field hears the contradiction and reflects back confusion. Not because it's cruel, but because it's precise. The chosen ones, the true spiritual architects, are not perfect, but they are clear. They know the signal they are broadcasting. They know the frequency they are entangled with. And when they slip, they recalibrate quickly. They don't wallow in guilt or shame because they know this too entangles with distortion. They simply return to presence. They choose again, and the field responds instantly. Are you starting to see how powerful you already are? You're not waiting for the universe to bless you. The universe is waiting for you to align, waiting for you to stop broadcasting from your wounds, waiting for you to remember that you are not here to survive reality. You're here to shape it. You are the signal. You are the source. And the clearer your signal, the faster the mirror shifts. But we must also talk about the shadow, because it too is part of the entanglement. Denied fear doesn't disappear, it multiplies in the field. Repressed pain doesn't vanish, it distorts the signal. This is why shadow work is not optional. It is sacred. If you don't face it, it entangles with your creations. That's why some people manifest success but still feel empty. They skipped the inner integration. They built from fracture instead of wholeness. So what does it mean to build from wholeness? It means you don't just manifest from desire, you manifest from truth. You don't just call in what you want, you clear what you're not. You don't chase alignment, you embody it. And in doing so, you become a beacon, a tuning fork, a quantum transmitter of the sacred design. Start with this practice. For the next 24 hours, observe every thought as if it were a spell, every word as if it were a seed, every emotion as if it were a tether. Ask yourself constantly, is this entangling me with my expansion or my contraction? Is this thought a mirror of my future self or a replay of my past? Your awareness is your wand. Your attention is your altar. Understand this. The field doesn't care if you're spiritual or scientific. It doesn't care if you believe in God or atoms. It only responds to your signal. That's why people of all beliefs can create miracles, and why people with all the knowledge can still feel stuck. Knowledge does not collapse quantum waves. Embodied coherence does. That's the real alchemy. Let me ask you a question that only your soul can answer. If you knew that every thought you think today would ripple through the field and return as your experience, what would you stop thinking? What would you start thinking? And more importantly, what would you feel differently? Because now you know. Now you've seen the code. You are not a spectator of reality. You are its composer. And the music you write with your mind becomes the world you walk through. Part 3. The signal becomes form. There comes a point on the path when you stop looking for signs and realize you are the sign. The universe is no longer something outside of you, giving you permission slips. It is something within you, constantly echoing your state of being. The outer world stops being a mystery when you begin to master your own frequency. And at this stage, quantum entanglement is no longer a theory. It becomes a lived truth. You begin to see how thoughts, once intangible, become touchable, how the invisible becomes the inevitable. The biggest mistake most people make in manifestation is assuming the outer world holds more power than the inner one. But it's the inner world that writes the outer script. The field mirrors not what you wish for, but what you expect. And expectation is just a thought that's been emotionally rehearsed. The more you embody a thought, the more it crystallizes into form. This is quantum entanglement in action, not just as particles, but as patterns. Let's go deeper. When a thought is charged with belief and emotion, it begins to polarize energy in the field. It starts drawing experiences, people, and opportunities that match its frequency. Your future is not something you walk into, it's something you broadcast into being. Every moment you are broadcasting, even your silence has a signal. Even your doubt has a vibration, and the field listens to all of it. But here's the most mystical part. The field doesn't just respond to what you think, it responds to who you are becoming. This is the real secret of quantum entanglement. You are already entangled with your future self. The version of you that is healed, whole, abundant, radiant, that version is not miles away. It is vibrationally near, and every time you act, speak, choose, or feel in alignment with that version, you collapse the gap. You embody the entanglement. You become the future now. So if your thoughts create reality, and your future self is already real, then all that remains is for you to match the frequency. This is not about acting as if, it's about feeling as now. When you feel the peace before the problem resolves, the resolution accelerates. When you feel the gratitude before the gift arrives, the gift finds you faster. The field doesn't respond to time. It responds to truth. And the deepest truth is already encoded in your frequency. The spiritual masters of every tradition knew this. They didn't beg for miracles, they embodied them. They didn't wait for signs, they became them. They knew that the outer world is just a canvas painted by the inner fire. Today, science calls it quantum possibility. The ancients called it divine will. But both point to the same source, you. So how do we tune our thoughts to create the reality we choose, not the one we inherited? It begins with radical self-responsibility. You stop blaming the world for your state. You stop waiting for permission to think differently. You become fiercely intentional with your mental energy. You become a curator of consciousness. You choose each thought like a precious ingredient in a sacred meal. And when the old thoughts creep in, as they will, you don't suppress them. You witness them. You bless them for what they taught you. And you release them like expired codes in a system that's now upgrading. This is not denial. This is alchemy. You're not ignoring the shadow, you're integrating it into a higher signal. You are not pretending pain doesn't exist, you are choosing not to build your timeline around it. Let me offer you a practice that will change everything if you do it sincerely each morning before the world touches you. Sit in silence and ask yourself one question: what frequency am I entangled with today? Don't overthink it. Feel it. If it's fear, acknowledge it. If it's love, amplify it. If it's uncertainty, meet it with wonder. The awareness alone begins the shift. You're not trying to control your day, you're tuning yourself for it. Then, throughout the day, return to that frequency like a sacred mantra. Your job is not to avoid the chaos of the world. Your job is to remain unavailable for frequencies that do not match your chosen reality. This is the discipline of the awakened. They don't react from default, they respond from design. And their design is entangled with clarity, purpose, and vision. Now ask yourself something impossible to fake. What version of reality would your soul create if you had no past to reference? No fear to obey? No limitation to carry? And that version already exists. It's already pulsing in a parallel thread of the field. And the only thing separating you from it is the thought you're choosing right now. Because thoughts are not just personal, they are portals. Every thought opens a door. Every repeated thought lays a path. And every path becomes a reality. This is not poetic, it is practical. When you think differently consistently, your neural pathways change. Your biology adapts. Your energy field reorganizes. Your environment begins to shift. The people around you change. The opportunities morph. The world bends to your alignment. But none of this happens without intention. You must become the author of your thought field, not the echo of someone else's. You must protect your mind like sacred ground, because in that ground you are planting timelines, and those timelines either serve your soul or drain your light. There is no neutral thought. Every thought is a seed of form. And here's the most empowering truth of all. You don't need to control every thought. You only need to feel the ones you want to grow. The field responds to coherence, not perfection. If you can feel the new reality in your bones, if you can breathe it, walk it, speak it, even when nothing has changed yet, that's when everything changes. Because now you're not reacting to the world, you're reprogramming it. This is not delusion. This is dominion. This is quantum stewardship. This is the return of the sovereign mind. So I ask you now, what thoughts will you refuse to entertain? Not because they're wrong, but because they don't build the reality your soul came here to live. What beliefs will you stop defending? Not because they're false, but because they no longer serve your evolution. What inner voice will you amplify? Not because it's the loudest, but because it's finally aligned with truth. You are not your past. You are not your habits. You are not your fear. You are a living transmitter of energy. A conscious node in the quantum web. A soul entangled with possibility. And now that you remember, the field begins to respond. Not someday. Now.